right, so we are in Badalona, Spain.
Yeah, we have a small the tournament in Badalona. It was played in 82. And we have this game against Grandmaster Illescas. He was the rising star from the Spanish chess. He was young enough, very talented Grandmaster, and it was more or less the decisive game of the tournament. I mean, if he could win the tournament, he had a good chance to win the tournament. If I could win, I could win the tournament. So therefore, the game was decisive.
This game was decisive.
The game was decisive, yes.
Okay.
So G6, Bishop G2, Bishop G7. Well, the game is more or less even. If now White wants to make draw, for instance, I mean, he can try the strange move C3, which can lead to a very unclear position.
Before D4 or after
Before
D4?
D4, yeah. Because why is interesting and trying to get a draw. After C3, D5, he can play D4, and if you take in D4, we have a symmetrical position, and the game is more or less even, Mm-hmm. So that's a good try to make a draw. But of course, he had to try to win also with White, And he played D4 immediately, but after D4, Black, in my opinion, equalizes very quickly, It's no problem at all. The difference now is that White has to do something. If he plays now C3 is different, because he doesn't have a pawn in D4, has a knight in D4, is different. And if he takes in C6, we have another position where Black can hope to have a better game in the opening later on, in a few moves, because he has already a good center. The pawn from B6, B7 comes quickly in C6, and we have a strong center later on. Maybe we can play D5, E5, and we have some initiative with Black, So, okay, now he has to decide. If he goes back to B3, we have another line. It was possible to play knight B3, but complicated game, Exactly what Black wanted in this game, to have a very complicated game and play,
In order to win.
Yeah, in order to win. So he took in C6, castle, now rook B8. Now knight D2, very good move. Because
He's losing a pawn?
Now is a big mistake to take immediately in B2 because you lose a piece. No, you lose the exchange.
Ah, okay.
Now you take with the rook, and after knight B3, the rook is trapped. You take in B2.
Ah, you take, sorry.
Yeah, you can take in B2. He takes with the rook, Black takes, and now knight B3. And he threatens queen C1, and you lose the rook.
Okay.
You lose the exchange.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a big mistake, of course. You don't take. Yeah. So now D2 is okay, and now knight F6, knight B3. And he wants to demonstrate that White is a little bit better with this idea Bishop D2, Bishop A5. But in reality, it's nothing. White has, for a few moves, he has a small initiative, but it's nothing immediately. So you have to play precisely with Black. Queen C7, Bishop D2, D6. Important, because now after Bishop A5, you have the square for your queen in D7. It's enough to get a good game. The idea is very clear later on. You threaten to play C5 and Bishop B7, immediate, even game for Black. I mean, if not more, a little bit more. Black is a little bit better afterwards. Queen D2, now castle, and rook D1. Okay. So now C5, Bishop C3. It was already threatening C4, winning the pawn, in B2. So therefore the bishop came back in C3. So queen E6. Now he plays an active move, queen I4, but the position here is already a little bit better for Black. Why? Because you have the open line, from B line is for Black already, and you have no problem at all after the opening with Black, even game and small advantage for Black. After 10, 15 moves, the opening is very good for Black already, if you have such a position. So, okay, we agree to trade queen, but if you trade the queen, is already advantage for Black, because now if you take immediately after bishop takes F5, you have already a small problem with the pawn in C2. Or you are forced to give the two bishops after knight E4 later on. if you can take, bishop takes and rook d2. Okay, clearly better after knight e4. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, initiative for black. Yeah. Okay, so he played bishop f3. And now after bishop f3, the advantage is small but very clear. Black is already clearly better. You know? So now bishop f5 and bishop takes. I mean, he hopes to get an even game, even if he gives the two bishops. I mean, black is better because he has two bishops in initiative, but he can hope to have an even game later on, you know. So in this moment, after e4, I played bishop e6, which seems very good, but it was probably even better to play bishop c8 or bishop h3, with a very strong initiative for black. For instance, after e4, bishop h3, white has many problems here because we threatening already c4, almost decisive. After c4, what to do with the pawn from b2? Now we're threatening to take immediately in c2, in b2. Okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So after bishop e6, he has some tactical trick. Now after the bishop in e6, I played bishop e6. And that allows white to hope a little bit to have an even game. After this move that he played in our game, I mean e5, he gives a pawn, but it's unclear now because we can have a position with different color bishops. And he can hope to make a draw, maybe, you know. So now takes in c5, and I took in f4. Everything is forced. Had to take in e6, of course. Takes, and rook b1. Okay, he agrees to give a pawn, but the pawn from e6 is a little bit weak for the moment, and he threatens already rook d7. And it seems that white can hold, you know, in more or less even. Black is still better, but now you have to play very precisely with black to try to get a winning endgame, you know. So it will be move by move. Everything is for initiative now. If he takes immediately in e7, now the initiative is for black, of course. Now black is clearly better. So he tries to avoid all this by playing bishop e4 that doesn't give the pawn from c2 in one move. So therefore black has to play, I told you, very precisely here, you know, move by move. Yeah. So rook b4, king f7. Now we give the pawn from a7, but we have already very strong initiative in any endgame. Later on we'll have an endgame, rook and bishop against rook and bishop, in some, you know, some moves from now on. Yes. So f3, this is very important move because now we are preparing a kind of endgame. I mean, mixture from endgame and middle game with tactical tricks. You know, later on we can have the pawn from f2. Everything will be very tactical, and we have such an endgame with some mate threats at the end. You know, the end will be very beautiful. You see, the endgame, most unusual, because in endgame usually you don't give mate, you win an endgame.
Yes.
But in this game we'll have a final position will be mate, you see.
Okay.
So after f3 is very important because now the white king has many problems. You know, it's very difficult to move the king. So if you didn't play the move f3, he could play immediately king g2, hoping to get free later on with king f3. You know,
Yeah.
it was a very big difference. You know.
Yes.
So now again he's in defensive. You know, rook d8, bishop e4, and rook d2. Now we see the difference. The rook is very active. He has a free pawn on a2, but he can't move with this pawn for the moment. And black threatens already to have some tactical tricks in 2-3 moves, you know,
So
decisive. If you have
basically
time to get the pawn c4 in good condition, he's almost mate if he doesn't take in f3. So everything will be forced from now on, you see. So he played bishop f3, rook takes e4. Now he took finally the pawn from f3, but we had time to take in c4 and get very active rook on the c file also, you know.
Like here.
Yeah, we are threatening already now bishop d4 and rook c2. both of them, winning advantage for black. You see.
Yes.
So what to do then?
But wasn't an alternative to take directly here?
Maybe it's okay, but it could happen that the initiative, the advantage is too small. Maybe he can escape somehow. Probably is already, almost winning for black, but the game continuation was even better, stronger, the way I played. So I took in c4. No, rook d1. He tries to get some, even end game, maybe somehow. You see. So now if you took in d1, and rook c1, it seems winning immediately, but after rook d7, probably he could save the game,
After this one?
Yeah, because now the pawn from a4 could be dangerous,
Yes.
dangerous enough to make a draw,
Yeah.
So, okay, so I took there, rook d1, and of course, the good move, rook c2. He took, I took, and now we have the same threat like before, bishop d4. Very unpleasant,
So
especially in
hard to
time
defend.
trouble is very unpleasant, yeah. So rook a4, bishop d4. He can't save the pawn from f2, he's forced, So and after bishop, we're starting with our idea to get some mate threats. We say h5, and now g5. There's no defense against g4. So g4 threatening something, because now you see
That bishop
everything
actually-
is decisive because the bishop from d4 is much stronger,
Yes.
and finally the white king is very weak in g1. There's no place, not good place for his king.
Now why not running on f?
In f1, well, if he goes to f1, now we can, the same idea, we can play g4, and later on take in f2, we can even play e5 and so on. We are coming later on and we'll win any end game. If not mate, but we win the end game anyway.
Yes,
So,
no escape.
so he played there, I took with check, he played in h1, bishop d4. That was the last surprise. Now everything is clear. Why is clear? Because the king in h1 has no escape now. This is the big difference. You see?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. And now we are moving the pawns, g4, h4, h3, and the twins by force, mate threat in every position, So what to do? a4, the only possibility now, h4. He played rook a8 and h3. And here he resigned, I think, no?
Yes.
He resigned. Why? There's no escape against the unpleasant threat, rook d2, d1. He has to give the rook, and of course, if he gives the rook, it's finished. If he doesn't give the rook, it's mate.
I cannot get out from here.
The king has no moves, you see. Zugzwang.
How can he give the rook here?
The rook d8, he has to give the rook. And after rook d1, he can hope to give the rook in d4, but that wins immediately, Because we have the same idea with exchange up, we're coming with the king, and that wins very easy, Bishop has no chance at all against the rook in endgame, you see.
Yes.
And if you don't give the exchange, you are mate, forced. It's very unusual for an endgame. I mean, maybe you win any endgame, but no mate. But here is mate on the table, see? So that was the big difference. It was the big difference because the rook was much more active. The bishop was very strong on d4, was covering everything. And the bishop from f1 was like a spectator. He has no moves at all,
Yeah.
The problem at the end is that he has no move to play, for instance, against h3 by playing himself h3. Because after h3, you move simply g3, and you're threatening mate in one rook h2 mate, because the bishop from d4 covers the diagonal,
Yes, true.
Yeah.
Could I give checkmate here?
Yeah.
With the
In every position is mate, and because the king is very weak in h1,
True.
Positional endgame like this.
Yeah.
Tactical and positional in the same time. Yeah.
All right.
But most instructive, very instructive endgame. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, decisive game, so I could win the tournament because of this victory.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Even probably, I told you before, black could play a little bit better by not allowing this. I mean, if you move bishop c8 or bishop h3, that is probably even better than in our game. In our game, I could allow the move e5 that could lead to this unclear endgame, different color bishops, But the other one doesn't give any chance. I mean, probably therefore was even better, probably. But if I played like this, we didn't have this, this endgame, yeah. This unusual endgame, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.